Hello and welcome again to segment 2 of Democratic Capitalism, a production of Mount Wachusett Community College. I'm Professor Michael Greenwood, Business and Economics Professor here at the Mount, and my guest today again is Ray Carey, local author of the book Democratic Capitalism, or The Way to a World of Peace and Plenty. Welcome again, Ray.
Thank you, Mike.
It's a pleasure talking with you again. Now this is our second segment. We want to talk about picking up where we left off last time. We were talking about your hypotheses. And we're about to get into the first two hypotheses that you have. Would you set that up for us, please?
Yes. Well, the first one, as we said, you better start at the right point. And the second and the right point is the economic system. That's the only one with the capacity to create and distribute wealth, which is the foundation for a world of peace and plenty. Second hypothesis is, well, what is the superior system that we should concentrate on? And I argue that it should be democratic capitalism, and I use this cornball 2 + 2 = 5. And the reason I use it is I do think there's an important concept there. And this gets back to, if you wanted to be fancy about it, you'd say this is the human duality, individual ambitions, and the instinct for social cooperation, with the leadership responsibility of harmonizing the two. And I think that is where, if you have people, whether it's on the football team or in a company, that are well trained and well motivated, and if you have a team spirit, those with certain strengths will loan those to others with weaknesses and vice versa, and the whole has to be greater than the sum of the parts from that point of view.
Now I know you learned a lot about cooperation and teamwork when you were on the football team at Gardner High. You were just admitted to the Gardner High
the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame,
right,
yes. I'm sorry, I just drew a blank there.
Right.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Very pleased. Thank you
now,
very much.
How can our viewers...
Interruption.
Yes.
That was for superior achievement, not for athletic abilities. I'm still waiting for that one.
Wonderful, right. How can our viewers take something so familiar as a football team and their experiences in playing on a team and transfer that to your 2 + 2 hypotheses and understand a little bit how economies can optimize for successful?
Well, if they think in terms of each player is personally responsible for conditioning and skill development, the leader is responsible for the environment, and if it is an environment of true teamwork, then, as I mentioned, the strengths will be borrowed and the weaknesses will be compensated, and the whole will have to equal more than the sum of its parts. And I think that applies at every single human association, and that is why I keep repeating in human associations, performance always improves with trust and cooperation. And the rest of the hypotheses examines, well, if that's so obvious and so true, why isn't that the way we run companies, and why isn't that the way we run our nation, and why isn't that the way the world unites and stops this violence?
You've got considerable experience in corporate America, a successful executive with ADT, now a part of the Tyco Corporation. Would you tell us, in your own words, why it doesn't work that way in business? Why don't all businesses work this way?
Well, I think that's getting ahead to ultra-capitalism. If let me go through my friend Karl Marx and his visions, and that partially explains that.
You mentioned Karl Marx. I'm sure many of our viewers it's a very hyperbolic statement. They're thinking communism and anti-capitalism, etc. How could our viewers relate to Karl Marx within the context of your...
They could read my book.
Yeah.
I talk about a synthesis of Adam Smith, Karl Marx, and John Stuart Mill. Adam Smith said, it should be easy, just let the free market do the job.
Yes.
But he's been translated as an apologist for greed, which is terrible because he was a friend of the working man, and he put two conditions on his free market. One, neutral money. And today, when there's $2 trillion traded daily on currency speculation, that ain't neutral money. And he said, beware of the speculators. He called them prodigals and projectors because they'll deflect capital away from the job growth economy, both of which are happening to an extreme right now. Karl Marx had several visions. Hypothesis number one, I didn't say it early because I thought I better slip into the Karl Marx bit.
Sure, we understand that, yes.
But that's what Karl Marx said. He claimed that he stood his German idealist predecessor Hegel on his head because Hegel was talking about the culture and the political system, and Marx came along and said, you got it all wrong. People have to eat, have shelter, etc. And he was the one that emphasized hypothesis number one, start with the economic system. There are others that chipped in. Confucius said, 2,500 years ago, he that started at the wrong end could do great damage. So that's another background for that. But then Marx, that was number one. His second vision was that some form of ownership would help motivate the people and would create more wealth. And the environment should be changed from alienation to cooperation. There's that word again. Mm-hmm. And then his final, when he also was very much on the worth and potential of the individual. All of this, Marxism's contradicted totally. That's why Marx has got such a bad reputation.
Yes.
That's where they went with his ideas. But he started with the worth of the individual. The Communist Manifesto says the full development of each is the condition for the full development of all. There aren't too many religions that would take an argument with that worth of the individual. And the last one he had is the one I like particularly. He could see this economic common purpose, and he could see with this, he didn't call it democratic capitalism, obviously. He was fighting capitalism, but he could see this spreading wealth around the world, reducing the violence, raising the standard of living, and he predicted that the warrior state would in due time become irrelevant. So he was very much on that idea of how you did the trade-offs.